see them as depreciating. We see them as, I've got 3 days, I've got to eat it, or it's going to go bad. It's not going to be any good for me. This is what I have. You've got a car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, depreciated value. You pay $25,000 for it. If you sell it tomorrow, it's only worth $17,000. Trust me, I know. And it's a depreciating value. This is what you have, and it's just one apple, and this is what I have as a possession. I have a possession. I have this. This is what God has entrusted me with. I have one apple. And we can even see it in the New Testament when the one that had the one talent, what he did with the one talent, he said, well, I've only got one, so what I've got to do is I want to bury it away so nobody can get to it. And so I'm going to just kind of bury it away and hide it away. But the widow at Zarephath did something different. She understood that if God has given you a possession, there is potential in your possession. Yes, sir. There is potential in everything that God has entrusted you with. Not just to consume, there is potential as an investment and as a blessing. And as we read in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, you can turn back there if you want to. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, in verse 6 and 7, Paul brings up a word that we normally don't talk about and discuss when it comes to generosity. He brings up a word that we talk about giving and generosity, but he brings in another term and another word that kind of has a whole different connotation in the context of generosity. And the word that he brings up is a farming term. It's a word called sow. He says, you remember when he said in verse 6, he who sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and he who sows bountifully will also reap bountifully. Paul, why are you talking about sowing in the context of generosity? Why are you talking about sowing in the context of giving? Because Paul understood that if I have a possession, if I have a resource, if I have money in the bank, if I've got something that God has given me, it does not just have depreciating value, it has potential. In your bank account right now, it may be $2 and you're just hanging on to $2 so they don't shut the bank account down. But with that $2, there is, I've never been there before, okay. Yeah, and just hanging on, and I've got one apple, I've got $2, but in that possession, there is potential. What you have today, there is potential. There is a possibility that is not just for eating, but it is for potential. It is investment. It is something that you could actually sow. Many of us, when we look at the thing that we have in our life, we just say it is one possession. I'm going to eat this and I only have one more apple. So I'm going to eat this and I'm going to die. But can I tell you, in everything that you possess, RJ, can you help me out? In everything that you possess, there is potential. There's potential in everything that you possess. This is just an apple. I'm going to just eat the apple and I'm going to die. But if you understand what God has trusted you with, you understand inside of every possession, there's something that's more than just worth for eating. I'm going to make a mess, and Allison was mad at me last night. She'll be mad at me today. Inside of every possession, there is potential. I can't get it out. It's not always easy. Come on, RJ, preach that. Inside of every possession, there is potential. Inside of every possession, there is a seed. So this feeds me for a day. If you will, if you flip back to 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 10, just for a minute. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 10. I'm going to move this and we can take that out. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 10. And I want you to think, in every bit of possession that you have, there is potential. What does he say in verse 10? 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 10. I got to get back there. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 10. We're in on this. Verse 10. Now may he who supplies seed to the sower. Speaking of generosity, not only he supplies, he gives enough. He gives enough. It may be small, but he gives enough. He supplies seed to the sower. Notice he does not give the full increase to the sower yet. He gives seed to the sower and expects him to be able to steward it well. He does not bring the increase wholeheartedly into his life. He brings for the widow at Zarephath 1 meal left, and if she understands what do I do with the 1 meal, then she understands the potential to be able to increase. the potential to be able to be prosperous and be more blessed in the kingdom of God by taking the seed that God has given me. Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food. I can eat from it, but I've also got enough left to sow. Supply and multiply the seed you have sown, and increase the fruits of your righteousness, while you are enriched in everything for all liberality. Can I tell you, my prayer is that us as the people of God, we increase not just in our righteousness, but to all liberality in everything. There is increase and multiplication in our life. But the only way that comes in place, I'm believing that maybe your place of having one apple, maybe it's not where you'll be at your whole life. I pray that as you steward well the one apple, there is a chance to be able to sow with that one apple so that God could increase. Not to get it, but so that you have more to be able to give. Let's read aloud to you. I told you a story. Can we read one more verse? Proverbs chapter 11, verse 24. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 24. Last place, and I'm done. You're like, this doesn't make it flies against everything that I know. Proverbs